So the first thing I'm going to show you is how you can test your creative to optimize your ad campaign. And by creative, I mean your ad design. So we're talking about images, headline, text, links, buttons. The idea behind this is to experiment with different designs and see if they have any effect on your campaign performance. And by doing that, you can fine-tune your designs. You can ditch, for example, images that don't work, and you can experiment with winning headlines. So here goes. So here's a copy of the information you'll see on the spreadsheet that I provided to you. So I want to talk over this bit by bit. Have a look at the 3 list of adverts that I've added down here. These are in what I've called the advert settings, and they're listed in the spreadsheet here as example A. What you'll quickly notice is that they're all pretty much identical apart from the image that I've used. Now let's go through this a bit more detail. So the traffic source is the website or websites you'll be advertising on. So for the purpose of this training, we're talking about Facebook, but you can use this method for any traffic source you want, really. I've given each advert a unique name, for example, Diet Ad 1, and I do this because it just makes things easier to track. Make sure when you're setting up the adverts online that you give it the same name as what's listed in your spreadsheet. Next, I've listed the details of the ad. So in the example, you can see that I've used the same headline, the same text, but I'm testing 3 different images. And this is the cornerstone of your testing. You must keep everything else about the advert constant and just change one variable at a time. In this example, we're testing images because typically images have got the biggest single impact on your click-through rate. In order to keep things constant, I've also set the same targeting. Remember, targeting is the demographic and interest information that you choose for your advert. And the landing page is the landing page that you're directing your traffic to, which I've referred to in my training as your opt-in page. Now remember, you don't have to have an opt-in page. You can direct them straight to a sales page on your website, but an opt-in page is something I'd highly recommend. It gives you the opportunity to warm your leads before you pitch to them. Again, this is an experiment. In this experiment, we're keeping the landing pages constant. Okay, so we've gone through the advert settings. Now have a look at the data under the heading results. This is along the right of your spreadsheet. So whenever you create an ad campaign, you need to be recording your results and analysing them. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. First, let's look at the number of impressions your ad received. This is just a raw number of people who've seen your advert, and you can copy this information straight from your campaign dashboard online. Now, Facebook actually refers to this as reach, which is the number of people who've seen your advert, and they also list the frequency, which is the average number of times a visitor has seen your ad. So you need to multiply these together to get the total number of impressions. You'll never get an identical number across all of your ad campaigns, but it doesn't really matter for this purpose. We're just using this figure to help us calculate the click-through rate. So you can see next to this column is the number of clicks. This is simply the number of people who clicked on your ad. And again, this information is taken straight from the dashboard in the Facebook Power Editor. In the column for CTR, you'll see I've already added a formula, so this will be calculated automatically when you enter the data. And it's simply the number of clicks divided by the number of impressions and display it as a percentage. Now, as a general rule of thumb, you want to be aiming for a click-through rate of at least 1%. So you can see from this example that image 3, the third line item down there, that was the least successful with a click-through rate of 0.775%. So you could use this information to decide to ditch that image for the rest of the campaign because it isn't working, and just focus on the other 2 images instead for getting a decent CTR. Next, we'll look at your total spend and cost per click. So total spend is provided on the dashboard, and if you divide this by the number of clicks, you'll get your cost per click. And now we move on to conversions. Now this is the number of people who went on to convert. And what convert means to you will depend on your business and the page you're taking them to. So in this example, the conversions are sign-ups to an email list. However, it's It's something you need to track, and Facebook makes this pretty easy. When you select to run an ad campaign that's about conversions, you get from Facebook a bit of code that you can add to your website. This piece of code has to be added to the thank you page that the visitor will get once they've signed up. So here's a quick example of what that code looks like, and this is what Facebook will provide you with, and they'll prompt you for this information as soon as you're on the Power Editor. So you just copy and paste this, and you can see in the instructions where it's asking you to place the code. Now, how you place this on your thank you page will depend on your website. I use lead pages for my opt-ins, and there's a really easy way to do it in lead pages, so I'll quickly show you that because it's something I know how to do already. So on your lead pages account, when you're creating a thank you page, you'll have a button called lead page options, and from there you'll have a button called tracking codes, and that's simply all you do is access that button called tracking codes, and you place the code in the head tag, as you can see from the screenshot. That's all I've done is copy and paste it in there. But if you're really not confident on how to do this and set it up on your own website, first thing I'd recommend, if you don't have a developer on hand, is to track someone down on somewhere like Fiverr.com, because they have plenty of people on there, and I'm sure there's someone that can help you, because it's fairly easy once you know how. So once you know how many clicks an advert got and how many conversions you achieved, you can do a simple calculation to work out the conversion rate. This is simply the number of conversions divided by the number of clicks. I can't give you a number to aim for here because it really depends on your industry, it depends on your offer and many other factors. But it's always a metric you can look at improving, and we'll talk more about that when we talk about how to test your landing pages. The next column on here shows the value of each conversion. Now, if you're getting visitors to buy from you, this is easy to calculate. It's simply the value of your product. If you're getting the visitor to opt into your email list, it's a little bit harder. You have to work out the average value of each sign up to your list. In other words, what percentage will go on to buy from you and how much they'll spend with you. I personally do this by working out the average over the previous 3 months from my email list, so the average spend per subscriber on my email list. But if you've got a new list and you can't do that, then I recommend you just take a guess at this stage, and as your business progresses that figure will become more and more accurate, but at least gives you a starting point. Next, we'll move on to total revenue. So this is simply the number of conversions multiplied by the value of each conversion. It's the revenue you have received or will receive as a result of the advert. So once you know your total revenue, then you can calculate earnings per click. This is a key metric to tell you whether or not you are profitable. So take your total earnings and divide it by the number of clicks you received. If you look at the earnings per click for each of the 3 examples here, you can see that advert 2 was the highest. But how do we know if that ad was the most profitable for our business? Well, we look at ROI, the return on investment. We compare earnings per click with cost per click. Now let's look at the first ad. You can see we earned less per click than it cost us, so we made a loss. And you can see that by the negative ROI, which I've put in red. However, in advert 2, we actually made a small profit. Now I'll just take a minute here to mention the cost per conversion, because if you look at the table, you can see that there's a correlation between the cost per conversion and how profitable that ad was for you. So if you don't want to go through all these calculations and you want to just keep things simple, you can simply look at that cost per conversion for each of your ads and compare that to the average value to your business for each new sign up, and just check whether it's a profit or a loss. So by now you should start to see a picture of just how important testing is for your business when you're advertising. It takes the guesswork out completely, and it leaves you with exact numbers about how profitable your campaign was. There's absolutely no limit to the testing you can do. I mean, yes, of course it will cost you money to test, and for that reason I'd always suggest testing with a very small budget to start with. But in the long term, this approach will lead you to a profitable, high performing campaign for your business. And you may be really surprised by some of the results. Sometimes I find a fantastic image and then it just performs really poorly. So you really don't know how good your ad is until you test it. So keep testing different parts of your advertising. Test different images until you find one that outperforms the rest. Test different headlines. Just make sure you test several ads at once so you've really got something to compare against. Remember, if it really isn't performing well, you can kill that advert immediately and minimise your loss, and we'll talk more about that later.